Whenever we deal with pesticides, one of the things that we have to look at are labels. Every agricultural product comes with a label on it. The label is supposed to have certain instructions. The label therefore becomes very important. The label is the law. If it says it on the label of the product, you are permitted by law to do that. If it is not on the label saying that you can do that, you are in violation of the law if you use it for that purpose. That doesn't matter whether or not it would function in that purpose. It has to be on the label. If you buy a thing of pesticide, it's got a label on it, label falls off, and you can't find the label, you got to get rid of the entire thing even though you know what's in there. Using it would be against the law. If you go into a barn and you find a jar of DDT from 1945, you can use it according to label directions, as long as the label is on it. That's why they tell you, label is the law. If it's not expressly stated that you can, then it is prohibited. It has to say you can use it for this. If it doesn't say you can use it for that, you can't use it for that. Even if you know it would work, it doesn't matter. This is a label from a DuPont Manzate Pro Stick fungicide. I've got this here because it shows a lot of different things. First off, up in the top, it shows who the manufacturer is, what the trademark is. When you look at the names up there, you've got Manzate, which is a trade name. It's a dispersible granule. The active ingredient is a coordination product of zinc ion and manganese ethylene bis dithiocarbamate. The ingredients are 15% manganese, 1.9% zinc, ethylene bis dithiocarbamate ion, 58.1%. It's got 25% inert ingredients. Therefore, the technical name of this is zinc ion and manganese ethylene bis dithiocarbamate. All of these have certain names. Next thing you see down in this is it's got an EPA registration number. Underneath that, it's got caution, which tells you about the toxicity. Keep out of reach of children, what to do if it's swallowed, what to do if it's inhaled, what happens if you get it on your eyes, what happens if you get it on your skin. Have the product container or label when you are calling a poison control center or doctor. For medical emergencies involving this product, call toll-free. It gives you all of this. Then it's got in here precautionary statements. Second column, up at the top, it says hazardous to humans and domestic animals. Caution, may irritate eyes, nose, and throat and skin. May be harmful if absorbed through the skin, inhaled or swallowed. Avoid breathing dust. Personal protective equipment. What you have to wear in order to be able to do this. Notice, it says applicators and other handlers must wear coveralls over long sleeve shirt and long pants, chemical resistant gloves such as nitrile rubber, natural rubber, or butyl rubber, shoes plus socks. No face mask, no gas mask. It's just got a few things in there. It can't be that harsh, but you never know. Fixers and loaders must wear protective eyewear and a chemical-resistant apron. Discard clothing or other absorbent materials that have been drenched or heavily contaminated with this product concentrate. Do not reuse them. Follow manufacturer's instructions for cleaning and maintaining PPE. If no such instructions for washables, use detergent and hot water. Keep and wash PPE separately from other things. These are very common sorts of things that it's telling you. That's why when you get the label, the first thing you're supposed to do is read it. Talks to you about environmental hazards. It is toxic to fish. It gives you directions for use. Agricultural use requirements, non-agricultural use requirements. DuPont will not be responsible for losses or damages resulting from the use of this product in any manner not specifically recommended by DuPont. User assumes all risks associated with such non-recommended use. DuPont Manzate Pro Stick is a dispensable granule containing mancozeb, is recommended for use as a spray for the control of many important plant diseases. How you can place this stuff on, where you can use it. Is it foliar? Is it used as a seed treatment? You can even do chemigation with it. Chemigation is where you have it applied in low levels in the spray field. So there are a lot of different ways that you can put it down. This shows you uses on grasses in a sod farm. It talks about algae, copper spot, gray leaf spot, and Pythium blight. This is your label. You must apply in manners consistent with its labeling. That's why they put these labels in there. This label is just an excerpt of one. You can get these in much more detail. They have them from all of the materials that you can purchase. It's a very interesting way of looking at these. Now, we're going to talk about persistence. We've talked about this when we were dealing with pollutants. It comes down to the same way with pollutants. We have what we call a half-life. We're looking at the amount of time required for half the material to be removed. This gives you the concept of a half-life. You put down a full dose. At the first time, you've got 100%, and every time from there on, it decreases in half. One of the things that does occur is a lot of times you have to reapply things like fungicides. You have to reapply it before it gets down to zero. And when you do that, you may apply a full dose when it's down at 25 or 12.5%, which means you're now at a higher dose level. We always have to look at that. Persistence is one of the important things because we look at half-life, how long it takes for the material to no longer be viable. We also talk about these three things, which is adherence, redistribution, and coverage. When you apply a herbicide, all you got to do is get it on the plant and it gets absorbed, the plant is dead, or it's picked up by the roots. When you apply an insecticide, you just got to get it in the mouth of that insect or on part of the insect where it's going to be absorbed, you've got it. When you get a nematicide, same sort of thing. You just got to get it out there in front of them. With the fungicide, you're protecting, which means you have to cover the entire part, make sure it sticks there. It's got to stay. It's a barrier. That's where adherence comes in. It's got to be able to adhere to the plant surface and stay there. That's where coverage comes in. When you apply this stuff, it's not good enough to just get a drop on it. You've got to be able to cover the entire part to make sure that it stays there, that it is usable later on. This gives you a good example. This is a grapevine. If you look at the left-hand side, you can see where the leaves are just starting to form. Then if you look at the right-hand side, you can see a fully formed leaf. In between, you can see a leaf that's halfway formed. So what you've got here is you spray this with fungicide at this stage. You've sprayed everything with it, but you wait 3 days, and this leaf in the middle is almost going to be fully expanded like the leaf on the end. All of a sudden, you've lost out some area in there. What often happens with fungicides is they are formulated to redistribute, which means in the morning or during the night when you've got dew on the plant, the dew is going to kind of solubilize this material, get it to flood out again and cover everything a little bit better. That's what redistribution about. Redistribution for fungicides is extremely important. Don't worry about it with herbicides. We don't worry about it with nematicides. We don't worry about it with insecticides. Makes a big difference when we're looking at a fungicide. We also have formulations. When we talk about formulations, or when we mention formulations on the label, active ingredients, they're inactive ingredients. The active ingredient is the actual material that's in the formulation that does the actual suppression or killing of whatever it is we're trying to get rid of. Inactive ingredients are fillers. It could be things like talcum powder. It could be a type of clay. It might be a surfactant, like a detergent sort of thing to help disperse the material. There are a lot of different things that are inactive. They don't affect the organism that we're trying to control. They do affect how well the formulation works. When we put these together, we have to look at the active ingredient and the inactive ingredient. There are a lot of different types of formulations. We have wet formulations. These are ones that you purchase. They are liquid. We can have a liquid, which is just a water-based liquid. We can have a flowable. A flowable is like a powder that's kind of dissolved, kind of a chalky sort of thing. When you put it into water, it finishes dissolving. One of the interesting things with the flowable is you often have to go and keep it stirred in order to keep it in suspension. We have what we call an emulsifiable concentrate. An emulsifiable concentrate will have an oil phase that you purchase. When you put that into water, it makes an emulsion. The emulsion often looks like milk. Up on the top, they're pouring this oily substance into the flask. As they're doing that, it's turning into this milky substance. These are interesting because they go in very quickly. They stay stable during most of the time you're spraying them. So they are a very important block of materials. This shows you a fungicide. It also shows you a herbicide. We've got dry formulations. They go on dry. It could be things like a dust, which, like it says, is a dust. It will be impregnated on something like a clay. Dusts tend to be messy. You can't always make sure you get the exact amount on the area you want it. They do function and they work well. We've got a wettable powder. This is a material that will suspend in water. We've got a granule. A granule is nothing more than a granular type material. We often use this for insecticides. We often use this on turf grass because it's easy to spread down a granule. We also have what we call gaseous formulations, which include an aerosol. Now remember, an aerosol is nothing more than fine droplets in the air that kind of suspend in there. That's a thing like you get out of a spray can or like fog. Then we've got fumigants. Fumigants are in a gaseous form. Fumigants are very toxic materials. They're quite well regulated. You have to really know what you're doing before you can use a fumigant. When we look at formulations, liquid, dry, gaseous, there are a lot of ways that we can do these.